Welcome to the Sober Edge podcast, inspiration for alcohol-free living. I'm your host, Terry Patterson, functional nutritionist and This Naked Mind senior coach. The Sober Edge is a place to explore the infinite possibilities on the other side of drinking. In a culture soaked in booze, discover the wonder and joy of taking a different path. Meet real people living lives of purpose and passion, learn the truth behind the alcohol myths, and get ready to be motivated, inspired, and astounded by what is possible with the Sober Edge. You're listening to episode 140 of the Sober Edge podcast. Welcome. Today, I get to introduce you to a new friend, Constance Todd Smith. And Constance and I have such a rich conversation. It's so fun to meet someone who has been on this journey for 38 plus years. And Constance shares her wisdom from a place of this groovy, juicy life. There's a little bit of hippie, a lot of businesswoman, and a whole lot of soul when it comes to Constance. So I want to share her bio with you, and then we're going to jump into the episode where you'll get to hear her passion about living an alcohol-free life. So Constance is an alignment coach, entrepreneur, writer, yoga teacher, and inspirational speaker. Her personal bio is a mother, a friend, a sailor, an adventurer, and a kick-ass sober woman in recovery for the past 38 years. Constance considers herself a hybrid of sorts, a rockin' combination of a successful businesswoman and a spiritual esoteric junkie. This quest for fine-tuning and upgrading the quality of her life was initially for pleasure alone, although she soon discovered that the people with whom she shares her methods were also experiencing life-changing upgrades. Her winning formula is simple. Combine the mainstream skills that she cultivated in business, determination, consistency, focus, and follow-through, with the powerful spiritual practices that she teaches as a yoga teacher, mindfulness, meditation, and journaling teacher, helping one to tap into their intuition, inner wisdom, and guidance. If you're ready to fully participate in your own life and make yourself and your dreams a priority, ready to change up those tired old beliefs and replace them with shiny new ones that support your purpose and inspire you to grow, Constance is ready to help you get the party started. All right, well, enjoy this episode. I'm delighted to introduce you to Constance Todd Smith. Well, hey, everyone. Welcome back to another edition of the Sober Edge podcast. And I'm delighted to introduce you to Constance Todd Smith. We are going to have a conversation today about the intersection of time served, a playground, hopefully some Abraham, let's see, am I going to say it right? Abraham Hicks. We're going to talk a little bit about his ecstatic dance, and we're going to learn a lot from someone who has been on this alcohol-free journey for 38 years. So, Constance, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Terry. I'm so delighted to be here.
Yes, we were just chatting beforehand, and we have a lot of intersections. So Constance currently resides in the Boston area, but we connected over some of the richness of living the hippie life up here in Nevada City, Grass Valley, in Northern California, where I'm from. And you've had a rich background of collecting, I want to say maybe discovering yourself along the way, and different maybe places or geographic locations have helped you to sort of figure out who you are now. So can we start there? Like, where's the intersection been of these different places that you've evolved into Constance today, who is having this conversation?
Oh, I love that question. You see, I love talking to somebody who does this stuff for a living. First of all, thank you for having me today. I think that life is tantamount to climbing a mountain, right? And you climb, and I'm not a mountain climber, so I'm using an analogy that I have no business using. But I was just listening to a podcast about Sir Edmund Hillary, who climbed Mount Everest. And when you get to a certain level, you sit, you acclimatize, you get used to the view. Your lungs take in the air, the amount of oxygen you have. And this happens throughout our life. We get to certain places. So for me, um, let's use the big ones. I quit drinking. Let's sit and look at that view. I was 27, very different world. I went from the party girl to I still like a good party, but I'm just not snorting up Bolivia and drinking, copious amounts of rum. And I'm a sailor, and all my buddies were still drinking and still partying. And it's like, oh, I need to take in this view. And then things shift. Then I moved to the Boston area way back when, and I start getting jobs, and now I'm professional. And how do I handle myself there? And so I think it's really important that every step along the way, we do take a little breath instead of dragging our old luggage with us from, previous selves. I mean, how many selves have we been? Um, then marriage happened. Then we quit our jobs and bought a sailboat and went sailing all over the Caribbean for 2 years. And then I got pregnant. I mean, I've had to take in these steps, right? Then Northern California, I became a hippie and embraced all of that lifestyle. I dove in, man. New Yorker, I was brought up in Manhattan, going out there, and people were like, just chill out. It's like, I don't even know how to do that. That's where I discovered yoga. That's when I became a yoga teacher. So all along the way, this is the beauty of sobriety. Anybody who's listening, if you're new or whatever stage you're at, because we're always new, aren't we? Even though we've been here for whatever amount of time, there's always something interesting working its way to you if you're open to it. And because we're sober, we're aware.
Yeah.
Uber aware. We're not sleeping. We're not in, hangover. We're not cleanup. I always said I was like Harvey Keitel in Pulp Fiction. His character, they call him the cleanup guy. Mm-hmm. That was my drinking time. I'd wake up the next morning. What do I have to clean up? Relationships, stuff I did that I'm not proud of. We could go on and on. But now we're open and free, aren't we? It's a renaissance all the time if you're open to it. And so my latest iteration, I came back to Boston. I was living in Mexico with my daughter. She wanted to come to college in Boston. I was like, I don't really want to leave Mexico. I like living on the beach. Okay. Came back here. Time to, again, I'm at a new place. What do I see? How do I navigate this? Being kind to myself, right?
That's so good. I've never heard that analogy before. And Constance, it's such a gift because I think my listeners and I think myself, I'm going to hold on to this idea of ascending the mountain, but stopping and exploring the view and acclimatizing to the amount of oxygen, the way the air feels different, the way we are moving different in this new place. And we forget, we want to drag, like you said, we want to drag everything with us. And it's no wonder that we get to a place where it feels too hard to move forward.
Yes. And that includes relationships, anything that no longer serves. Let's just put the big, heading umbrella. What serves you now? Right? I always think of clothes because I'm a girl. Am I wearing the same clothes I was in high school? No, man. That doesn't serve me. Right? So sometimes we have relationships, and that's hard when you're newly sober, and even not newly, because guess what? I just had to say bye-bye to somebody I've known for 30 years. Mm-hmm. Good friend. It's not working. She's still on the road, that I used to be on, and I can't do it anymore. Mm-hmm. And so I had to honor myself. And I asked that critical question. Ooh, this is the scary one. If I met that person today, would they be my friend? That's an eek moment. Mm. It's just something to look at. You don't have to offload people. You don't have to. Some people will offload you. Trust me. Once you're sober, so you're like, "Hey, wait a minute. Where are all those calls?" Right? I'm still fun.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But yes, it's about not dragging things that no longer serve you into the future, and just saying, about a friendship or a relationship, whatever it is. I love her, And I can continue loving her if I'm not forced to be in a situation that's not good for either one of us right now. And I want to love. I don't want to feel any animosity or animus in my life.
That's yes, and you're reminding me of kind of a trivial, way to look at this, but I remember so we live in the country, and when we first moved to the country, we got 5 acres, and if you've ever had property, things just kind of accumulate, it's like, "Oh, I don't need to throw that away, we'll put it in the back 40, so to speak." So when we got ready to move and we were downsizing to an in-town property of about an acre, we had to offload a lot of things, and so we had your typical yard sale. And Constance, it's so interesting because we think about, well, but I loved that coffee table and that coffee table's beautiful and it's worth so much. And I really, in that moment, I learned, and this was even before I was alcohol free, but I realized that I didn't need to hold on to something. I could look at the value of it in a new way, that it served its purpose. I enjoyed it. I got the full value out of it. And now I can let it go, whether it's $100 or $10. It doesn't negate the fact that I enjoyed it and I used it and it was valuable. And I see that a little bit like the relationships. Like we don't have to push away or, like you said, offload people, but we can actually just release that in
Mm,
love, and we can release that in a place that feels good for them and for us.
yes. Yes, exactly. I like that.
Yeah, and it's been, I think that all the time now. It's like I have too many things. We all do, right? We just accumulate things. We live in America. And maybe even when you lived on the beach, but probably not so much. But, we accumulate things, and when it's time to let them go, why are we holding on to them? They have served their purpose in our life.
Yes, it's a sentimentality moment. Truly. I learned that when I went sailing because we got rid of a lot of things. I said to my husband at the time, if you stand still, I'm getting rid of you too. I mean, I am just, and it took 3 hits at my closet. And I kept inviting my girlfriends from work going, come on. They're like, you're not done yet. I said, no, I keep thinking I'm going to have these. Am I going to come off this boat and want to wear these certain clothes? Like, no. Right. So yeah, it's kind of a fun thing to do, isn't it? Because what feels better than shedding that which you don't need anymore?
Yeah, and so I'm so curious about your boat trip. So you were already alcohol free when you went on your boat
Yes.
trip, is that true? So I wonder, because I think one of the snags for people is we're so used to using alcohol to escape and distract ourselves,
Yes.
buffer from the things that are uncomfortable. Do you think you could have spent 2 years on a boat without a lot of, distraction if you were still drinking?
I would have been a mess. I would have been a hot mess. I would have gotten in trouble. I'm not a quiet drinker. I have a lot of energy. And I'm already up here, and then you add fuel. You know what was great for me? Here's what I did. When I first and my husband is well, still is, he's still alive, but we're not no longer married. He's a normal person. He drinks like a normal person. Okay. Um, what I did was when I got sober, I did not go to AA. I just didn't do it. It's my mother had tried to get sober so many times. I have been to AA meetings. I have been to treatment centers. I had a big book. I knew everything about AA. When I got sober, her husband, who was her third husband, who was my favorite of all of them, um, was sober for like 10 years and he became my go-to guy, right? And I'd go to meetings with him, crazy meetings with him, but that was it. What I discovered was on my trip that I needed to go to meetings.
Mhm.
And so our first trip was sailing from Newport. We were in Newport, Rhode Island for the summer, getting ready. And then we sailed over to Bermuda and we were there for a month. And I got over there and like sailors, we drink, man. And there I am in this community of cruisers. That's what they call people who live on boats. And woo, they're knocking it back. And I thought, wow, I need some equanimity. I need my people. So I found a meeting in Hamilton. It was a women's meeting, and I was like, I drank with men. Why wouldn't I get sober with, I don't know, whatever, I'll go. Best thing I ever did. Turns out they owned sail lofts, and all their husbands owned all these businesses that could take care of my sailboat. So things would happen on my boat, and they put me at the front of the list. And everybody in the sailing community was like, how did you get your topping lift fixed? I was like, I'm just a friendly kind of gal. So I went to AA meetings all the way down the Caribbean. Everywhere I went, it was so much fun. It's Insta friend, you know. Um,
Yeah, and it speaks to the power of community as that.
yes,
And we're feeling, and I also love this idea of, revisiting something that maybe we have dismissed in the past. So, again, talking about moving up the mountain as we evolve, something that we didn't need before, or didn't work for us, or didn't fit in our
yes,
lifestyle might be the perfect tool in the moment.
yes. And when we do that, what's that kick, that reaction moment where we go, that's not for me. If you can be present enough when you hear yourself saying that, or in your mind, not subverbally or audibly, say, well, wait a minute, where'd that come from? First of all, was that your original thought, or was that your mother's or a friend's? Let's get the provenance of that thought. So, yeah, I mean, it's so wonderful to do, isn't it? To say, wait a minute. No, that didn't work for me, but maybe now.
Yeah, and what's so cool is my story also. So I've been alcohol free for 8.5 years, and when I stopped drinking, I thought I might have to go to meetings because I didn't know any other way to stop. I didn't have any support system. If there were alcohol free coaches at that time, I didn't know about them. I didn't really research, but I was kind of afraid to go in my small town to a meeting where I
Mm,
probably would know people. And so
understandable.
I just told myself that I was just going to stop. And Constance, I did. But that doesn't mean that I'll never need or want, or there might never be an opportunity that will feel wonderful to go to an AA meeting or be in a
Yes,
different type of community. I have lots of communities even my own communities where I connect with mostly women who are alcohol free. But I think there is so much power in recognizing that we can flip the script at any time.
absolutely. And knowing that there is this community that's worldwide that is totally accepting. The only thing you have to do is walk in the door. You don't need a membership. There isn't any hierarchy. I guarantee you, and you don't have to share. I want people to know this because they think they've got to go in there, and you don't have to say a word. You just can sit in the room, and I guarantee you, you're going to feel better when you leave than when you got in there. It just, it just happens that way. So, and no one's judging you. I mean, it's really weird. It's not the real world.
Yeah.
We're very used to being judged. We're very used to being called on our behavior, um, whatever other things. And it comes because we judge ourselves so wickedly, mostly, right? Especially women. We are just so cruel to ourselves sometimes. And so I just want to say to people, if you're have a there you can find meetings everywhere. They're all the time. I have made some incredible friendships. It's just been a wonderful journey for me. Yeah.
So I want to segue a little bit and talk about Abraham Hicks, because you shared before we hit record that you have a Facebook group that has thousands of members. And so I know a little bit about Abraham Hicks. I don't know if my audience is that familiar.
Okay.
And so will you share a little bit about um, who this this spiritual practice or community is?
Yes, absolutely. It's quite simple. It's basically that the tenets are based on the law of attraction. So what you put out, you get back. I mean, it's physics, right? Einstein, there's some great quotes about Einstein about it. Just is called the law of attraction. Now people hear that and they go, "Oh, woo woo, you're lighting sage and you're leaping around the room." Well, yeah, I do that, actually.
I was going to say, when you can.
That's fun too. But really, it's about looking at your thoughts and becoming discerning, right? So, what do you think mostly? Are you thinking positively mostly? Or are you thinking negatively? So, how can you stay focused? Can you stay focused through the entire time you brush your teeth? I bet not. I bet nobody who's listening can, because you know what? I can't. And this is my jam, right? Your mind gets going, the monkey mind, we call it in yoga, right? Um, so it's a community of people. The woman who brings forth the information, her name is Esther Hicks, and actually it's the closest thing to AA I've ever been to, because everybody's so welcoming and warm and happy. We want to be happy, and the way I interpret it is happiness is a choice, right? So you can be a victim, you can be the victor. You can wallow in your poo. You can say, you know what, today I'm going to just be miserable, but I'm going to wake up tomorrow and I'm going to flip the script. Um, Very much about meditation every day. Wake up, do your meditation. I don't care if it's 5 minutes or 15, quiet time, that there is this broader part of us, right? It's not just Constance on the planet running around doing my thing. This is a small part of who I actually am in the bigger picture. And so it's about connecting with something bigger than you. So some people will call it God, source, your soul. Doesn't matter. Nature, right? Whatever you want to call it. Taking the time to shut off your brain and just be quiet. Because most of us pray. I want, I need, bring it. Where the hell is it? But what's on the other side of that? It's a call and response, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear the response. I'll give you this fun little story that I love for the listening for the response or seeing the response when it shows up. So there's going to be a flood in this town. And the local law enforcement goes around to the houses, and they come to this fellow and they say, hey, Mr. Jones, there's going to be a flood. We think that you should leave now. And he said, no, God will send me a sign when I need to leave. And they said, well, all right, but oh my God, it's not looking good. So then a while later, the water's rushing up and he gets a phone call from a buddy. He's like, hey, come on, are you leaving? We've got to go. I mean, they've said, forecasted, we're in bad shape. He's like, God will send me a sign. Well, pretty soon he's on his roof and the water's rising up to roof level. And a boat comes by and says, Mr. Jones, hop in. He's like, God will send me a sign. Well, all right, he's dead. And he's up at the pearly gates. And he says to God, why didn't you send me a sign? He said, I sent a cop, your friend called, and I sent a boat. What the hell is the matter with you? Right? So it's about recognizing the signs. But if we're in our head all the time, the din in there is overpowering. And we're usually thinking about what went on yesterday, where we're forecasting into what we need to do, now, the present moment. That's the juice, baby. That is where all your power lies. So that's, in a nutshell, a bunch of the different things that Abraham Hicks brings forth. And I just love it. It just makes me feel good.
Yes. And that's such a powerful reminder, that call and response. So I have a question for you, because I love the idea of where our attention goes, energy flows. And so I always think, one of the things that I work with on my clients, I call it bossing your brain around. And it's really about, sometimes we need to ask a different question.
Mm.
We spend time asking, why isn't this working? Why can't I, stop drinking? What's the matter with me? And we need to ask, how is this working? What
Mm.
can I do differently? And so sometimes I wonder, Constance, in this call and response, do we need to also pay attention, not just to listening, but to the words we're using to call?
Always, always. And also the things that I can never, it won't ever, it doesn't have this is the belief system. This is when we go into our belief systems, right? And we say, I'll never get a boyfriend. Well, you just wrote the story. Good for you. And why is that? I'm too old, I'm too young, I'm too fat, I'm too thin. Well, there's your story. And we know we do this to us. It's self-sabotage. So listening to your words is huge. And I'll say to people, that's not true.
Mhm.
You just told me something else. They'll say, my God, you're right. But I've been saying it for so long, right? It's a habit. So, yes, absolutely. Looking at our thoughts, looking at our verbiage. How do we speak, especially about ourselves? I can't ever, I won't, it won't, should. Anytime you put should in, that means no. I should go. I should, no, right? Yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yeah. It's such a great reminder that we want to also learn to tune in to, the way that, people think manifesting is sometimes something far different than what it is. And, or we have this, phrase now like toxic positivity. And it's like, we're getting all of that is getting in the way of us being able to just allow that we are powerful,
Hmm.
vibrant, and capable. I mean, all of this. And, when we limit ourselves with those limiting statements, that self limiting belief, and then someone says, well, just be positive. It sounds like toxic positivity, but that's not what it is. It's actually changing that belief system that you're talking about.
Yeah. Well, it's like, let's look at what is working.
Mhm.
So, first of all, you are a manifester, or you wouldn't be here. We just naturally manifest. That's what we do. And what if everything you always wanted has already been granted to you and you're just not letting it in? You don't have to work at manifesting. It's not a job. You're
Yeah.
human. You have a creation system. It's called your brain, your imagination. That's where you do your work, right? And it's already happening. So there's nothing to work on. I don't have this because you're just too wound up. How about just letting everything go and just, being kinder to yourself? Like, go to a movie, get a pedicure, take a bath, eat chocolate. Indulge in something, right?
Yeah, I love that. I think indulgence can help remind us that we are allowed for things to be light and easy.
Yes.
And we walk around with a lot of, I swear I hear this like every year. Oh, the culture now is telling it's things are really hard right now. The economy's bad, the this. And it's like, we've been saying that my entire life. And guess what? It doesn't it's not what drives us I mean, people can get caught up in that, sure. It's one of the reasons I haven't listened to the news for like 20 years.
I'm
And
with you.
yeah, yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
And so it's like we can believe that, but that's a choice. We can also make a different choice. And I think that's where people with something like the law of attraction and allowing us things to just sometimes be light and easy and fun
Right.
it can make such a difference from this old mindset of, well, we have to pay attention. Things are heavy. Things are hard. We have to, save up all our money because there's not enough money in the world. I mean, we get all caught up in this stuff. And I just think sometimes we forget to let it be easy.
Yes. I think that's a really great way of putting it. Absolutely. I concur.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so we're going to segue again because there's so much to talk to you about, Constance. So you originally reached out to me and you are in the process of a work in progress of writing something that is you're calling a sober companion. And I think you describe it on your website a little bit like different than this sort of a companion to some of the sciencey parts of not drinking. So can you tell us more about that?
Sure. I would be delighted. First, let me tell you the provenance of it, because it's the fun part is, like, how did this happen? I recently moved back to the Boston area, and I hit a snag, and I realized, oh, I need my people. So I started going to AA meetings. And again, this was, I go when I need it. Well, what I realized is I really needed it. And I started checking different ones out in the area and which ones do I really like and which I don't. By the way, I'm going to say that to your audience. You go and you say, I didn't like that. Keep trying. Keep trying. It's not, everyone has a different flavor. The foundation is the same, but the flavor is going to be different. I go to the suburbs, I get different. I stay in the city, which is what I prefer because it's rough and tumble, more my kind of people, right? Little bam. I like that, right? You might not like that. So you just keep looking. Anyway, what I discovered was, and we talked about this before you started recording, that life when I first got sober in 12-step life was very different. Back in the day, NA and AA were separate. And it was frowned upon by the old timers that, NA people would come in and start talking about whatever drugs they were talking. But guess what? Alcohol is a drug.
Newsflash.
So that's basically morphed now. So there isn't a delineation, which I love. So the umbrella is covering all of us out there who are struggling. And what I noticed was, and was very disheartening for me, back in the day, you went back out to drink or do whatever, right? You relapsed, you fell off the wagon, whatever you want to call it. More than likely, you'd find your way back. Now, with oxy, fentanyl, you're done. It's a no bueno. Every week I was hearing I had to go to so-and-so's wake. You remember Tom? Tom went back out. He snorted some blow with fentanyl. He's done. He's done. People are dying. It's an epidemic and no one's paying attention. And it took the wind out of my sails. It really made me sad because there's so much good to be had on this side of drinking. We're the heads, not the tails. The tails is drinking. The heads is the sobriety, right? So that's when I decided I wanted to write a sober companion. After 38 years on the bright, as my stepdad used to call it, I have been in every situation that one can imagine being sober. New jobs, new latitude, longitude, right? New men in my life, divorce, marriage, motherhood, you name it, I've done it. And I've been in more wine caves in Napa because my former husband was a CEO of a financial services firm and everybody used to come out to Napa. That's where his office was. I can handle anything. I figured out how to do it from a sober perspective. Preparation, how I need to go into the space. And as I said to you, it's how-tos, it's life skills, but it's sober life skills. But if you took the word sober off of it, it would still be life skills, right? Like, how do you handle meeting your boyfriend's parents and they drink and you don't? How do you deal with that, right? How do you handle and deflect people's comments? Because there are well-meaning comments and there are some that are slights, right? How do you shore yourself up before you leave the house so that no matter what happens to you, you got it going on? Do you have snacks in your purse?
Yeah.
Have you eaten? Right? Do you have a bottle of water in there? Because guess what? You can go to the fanciest damn parties in the world. I've been there. They don't have anything for people who don't do it. There's tap water. I had a woman tell me in a $4 million home up in Seattle on the water, the most beautiful home, catered, gorgeous. Yeah, there's some old juice boxes in the refrigerator.
Oh, thank you very much.
Thank you so much. So I went in the kitchen and made friends with the caterers. Okay. So there's, this is what we do, but you got to shore yourself up. So I am writing my sober companion because I want my fellow men and women in sobriety to know that it's not a survival here. We're not surviving, we're thriving. And if you've got the tools, the right tools, like with anything, you're going to hang a picture. You don't have a hammer and a nail, the picture's not going to be hung. I'm your hammer and nail. Okay. That's what I'm providing for you. And it just gives me so much joy to write it. So yes, that's the info on my sober companion book.
I love it. And it's so good because we do need more tools. I always tell people, I said, if you are feeling like you just can't figure this can't cross over to the not drinking side. Like you just keep having day ones, keep going backward,
Yeah.
steps back, one step forward. Try more tools. There's an inexhaustive list of tools that you can use. And
Yes.
there's resources out there that we've maybe tried and dismissed, never tried. I have a good friend so I don't know if you've seen the TV series Louder Milk.
No.
So it's actually it's on Netflix right now. Not to necessarily give a plug to Netflix, but it's about a guy who leads basically it's an AA group, but they call it, I think, Sober Friends. But I actually have a friend who's been alcohol free and she did not go to AA, did not like AA, but she watched that series and she said, I think I'm going to go to an AA meeting because I want in-person friends. And I'm
Mhm.
seeing that this could look different. I feel lonely sometimes to have sober friends to hang out with. And she's got lots of online friends, but it's different. And
Yes.
so she found herself in an AA meeting. And so I think what's so cool is we need a guide by the side, a sober companion, if you will, to help us understand the tools and the mindset and the energy behind moving forward. And even when we do get tripped up, there's more tools, there's more options, there's
Yes.
more resources out there.
Yes. Always. Always. And it's just about, and maybe you haven't thought of them yet. And so there's also online, if people, YouTube um, has some great AA speakers.
Mhm.
If you're home sometime and you're feeling a little sideways, throw them on. They're amazing. They're funny. Anthony Hopkins, he's one of our people. He's got 45 years or something. He speaks about his life drunk and everything. He's funny. And you realize we're very funny people. Okay. Very authentic. I mean, you can't get around people who are more authentic. My daughter, who just accompanied me to my 38th anniversary meeting, right, where I spoke and everything. And then she gave me my medallion. And she said, every time I come to these meetings, and she was telling them when she was giving her little, chat up front of the room, I, I'm always blown away. She said, I've never been with people like this who are so honest and easy about men are crying. People are talking about what's happening in their lives. It's incredible. And then you go back out in the real world and you're like, wah, not what, you know, you're a little uptight. Okay. Or, it'd be great for you if you could just offload some of this. And I think the great part about AA, it's an offload.
Mhm.
You could go in there, you're having a crap day. You can say, I'm having a crap day. You don't have to say any more than that. I just need to be here with my people. Um, but yeah, the tools, they're always out there and you'll hear them in the most interesting of ways. The information will come to you. Absolutely.
Well, and you mentioned that you had listened to the podcast where I was reflecting on the Sober in the City event that I went to recently.
Yes.
And I've been
Yes.
to several. And what I'm finding too that is so cool, Constance, is that for those who, for whatever reason, AA isn't right for them or right now at this time, we now have so many ways to connect and feel this sense of community, even online. And it's not quite the same. But one of the things that I noticed and was reflecting on is that two things really. One is that when we're in this place where we are making a change around alcohol and we come forward and we're sharing it in these groups that I'm a part of, and you just have these raw, real conversations, like all of
Yes.
the BS is cut out of the way. And so we feel closer to these people often than we do to lifelong friends because we're relating on a deeper level about real pain and real change. And I think that's super powerful. And then the other thing, particularly with these Sober in the City events, and a couple of women that are now my friends have, been putting them on. And it's really a celebration of like, let's celebrate being able to socialize without alcohol. Like, let's bring the fun back because often, it's been, we feel like we're in the alcohol timeout. we're in the kiddie section, we
The
can't.
kids section, exactly.
Yeah, we're at
Please
the
say
kids
that,
table.
kids table.
And that is just not as much fun as it is to be the center of the party. And so you mentioned ecstatic dance. And when I went to one of the Sober in the City events in Portland, Maine in September, we actually had one of the things we did over the course of the weekend was an ecstatic dance party. I had never been, and I didn't really even know what it was. And it was super cool. And it was just, we get an opportunity to experience new things when, like you said, we are open to experiencing them.
Absolutely. Ecstatic dance. For anyone who's listening, um, if you go to the ecstaticdance.org website, it will list when I first started taking it, it had just come from Hawaii and it was in Oakland and in Sweets Ballroom, a 5,000 square foot ballroom where Count Basie and Ella Fitzgerald and everybody. And I just severed my relationship with my husband. And I was at that mountain up there going, now who am I? I've been dating in 23 years. I'm a mother now. What the heck? I love to dance, but going to bars is not really, it doesn't work for me, that kind of dance. And they're not dancing the way I was used to dancing anyway. I grew up in the 70s and 80s. Lucky me. Had funk and disco and reggae. And oh my God, I was just dancing all the time. And I found ecstatic dance. I went up and I literally, I had found my people. And there's no alcohol, there's no shoes, there's no talking on the dance floor. So you have to be in your dance is your dance. If someone comes up to you and motions to dance with you, you just give them the old Anjali Mudra namaste hands and they back off. It's beautiful. I actually ran an ecstatic dance in Berkeley and because I fell in love with it so much, and you look it up now, it's all over the world. Go to Israel, you can ecstatic dance. You go to Paris, you can ecstatic dance. You go to Greece, go to South America, anywhere. I tried it out in Argentina. Anywhere I go, it's kind of like it was like my form of community wherever I was. And you will find parts of you that you didn't know existed. And you get out of the formulaic dance that we get into at weddings and things. And you are free. It is. I took my daughter there when I first started going because I wanted her to see what mommy was so happy and digging. And everybody's like, you're going through a divorce? I was like, well, yeah, I mean, it wasn't great, but I'd found this new tribe and this new way of expressing myself, right? I was ecstatic and excited. And when we left, she said, oh, I get it. You feel free here. When she was like 11. I said, yeah, babe, that's exactly what I feel. So recommend it. If you're on Facebook, go to Facebook, look up ecstatic dance in your area, look up conscious dances. There's a lot of ecstatic dances that don't come under that umbrella necessarily, but I have a lot of conscious dances here in the area and they have sober ones as well. There's no drinking and you're not out in the dance floor smoking a doob. You're not going to be around people that are smacked more than likely. So that's really safe for people like us, especially if that makes you feel uncomfortable being around people that are imbibing. This will not be the case for you. And I guarantee you'll just have a ball.
Yeah. And that's exciting. How cool. And it was really a fun experience to have this ecstatic dance. And the couple that were walking us through it, they told us the history, a little bit of the history of it that you had shared. And then also that, it's not about dancing with someone else. It's about really even just having your eyes closed and just moving. And
Yes.
in the playlist that he had put together for us, we actually had like just African drumming. We had just varied types of music to help us feel into the music. And I think that we forget how much we hold inside through our body. I feel like most of us, and I'm certainly guilty of this a lot of the time, walking around just ahead. It's all thinking. I forget
Right.
that I'm attached to a body that has feelings and emotions and movement.
Yes.
And when I use my body to help express those feelings and emotions and thoughts, it's just a powerful way to be completely connected and to get out of my head. So I love this idea. And of course, as a yoga teacher, you come to it honestly.
Yeah.
But
Well,
yeah.
a lot of people that are at the ecstatic dance or, started going were body workers, right? Everything from massage therapists to chiropractors to yogis to whatever, because and what I say to my students is the reason we breathe in yoga, because really yoga is just there to get you to breathe. And then the asanas are just, kind of the icing on the cake. Is it so you get out of your head? I always say, leave your head out there with your shoes. The only one thinking in here is me, right? So your job is a feeling practice. Yoga is a feeling practice. And your body speaks to you in the language of sensation. And if you're not present and if you're not breathing, you can't feel what your body's telling you. But when you're dancing and you're not speaking and you want to say something to somebody and you're like, oh, wait, I can't. Oh, right. Let me go back in and play with me and my body and feel all these yummy feelings. And I've gone to ecstatic dance in a rage and I dance my rage right the hell out. I leave it all on the dance floor and I go in bliss and then I come out in an even higher place. It's really a place for personal expression and that it's a container for it. That's what you're there for. No one's going to look askance at you. You can lay on the floor and breathe the whole time. People do that. You can stand by the speaker and gyrate. People do that. You can sit in the corner. People do that. You can dance with your eyes closed. I do that. Or if something comes on, it makes me happy. I skip around the room and I throw my arms around. You can do that. So if you're, I can't tell people enough because another way for me to stay in equanimity and just groove in my recovery is being strong in my body. When I'm strong in my body, no one can mess with me. And dancing is, a wonderful way to do that. To get
Mhm.
back in touch with you. Yeah.
So cool. So cool. Yeah, I love that. And I've never heard it described that yoga is just there to teach us to breathe so that we breathe. Because, yeah, it's really challenging when you start to explore meditation and try to follow your breath or do something like yoga and try to follow your breath or
Mhm.
just, the practice of noticing your breath. We're so ill-equipped. We're not ill-equipped. We're completely equipped. We're not conscious of how to do it. We've
Yeah.
gotten so far away from breathing. And I read something. Are you familiar with the work of Mark Nepo?
No. Tell me.
Oh, so you might enjoy him, but someone just gifted me a beautiful book called The Book of Awakening, and it's been out in the world for 20 years. But he is a poet, but he talks about breath and singing. And he said, our first song was at our birth when we cried out.
Ooh.
And the softest song we sing is our breath.
Oh, I love that.
Mhm.
Oh my goodness. Right?
Mhm. Yeah. Yeah. So there's so much connection available to who we really are when
Mhm.
we explore ways to be more in touch with our body. So this has been such a rich conversation, Constance. So
I
fun to connect
agree.
with you. Yeah. Where can people find you and follow your work and maybe even connect around your Facebook group for Abraham Hicks?
Okay, so my website is
Mm.
constancealignment.com. And you're going to find a lot of stuff there. I do have a sober corner there, and that's where my book, when it comes out, if you want to sign up for the email, you'll get a little blurb. Most of the website is belief systems, how to knock those out and live a juicy, groovy life. Um, Catch me on Facebook at Constance Todd Smith. Catch me on Instagram at Constance. You can do Constance Todd Smith again or Constance Alignment, ALIGNMNT. You'll find me. Uh, what else? What else? I think those are all the major players, right?
Yeah,
That
and your Abraham Hicks group that you
yes,
run, is that different?
it's Abraham Hicks and you on Facebook, and it's the and is an ampersand. So come on down and join the party. We're just a bunch of positive lunatics. I mean, seriously.
Positive lunatic. What a great marketing tool. And I think I might have to title this podcast episode. If not, you'll know when you're listening to it. But A Juicy, Groovy Life with Constance Todd Smith. Like,
Oh, girl, I
what
love
could be
that.
better?
I love that. Thank you so much. I love your podcast, and that's why I reached out to you in the first place. I love your authenticity and your guidance. And I think that anyone who is using you as a sober coach is a lucky human being, honestly. You feel really grounded and open, and it's just a delight chatting with you today. Thank you so much.
Oh, well, thank you. I know my audience is going to get a thrill. So we'll connect again soon.
Yeah, we will, girl. All right.
I want to thank you for tuning in to the Sober Edge podcast. This is a place for important conversations and a safe place to question everything you thought you knew about drinking. If you're looking for your sober edge, I want to invite you to connect with me at thesobernutritionist.com, where you can grab my free resource, Becoming More, a guide to loving your sober life. And I would be so grateful if you enjoyed this podcast, if you would leave a rating and review, as it will help more people find their sober edge.